GoForThe2.com. We're into the Week 10 predictions of the college football season. Some amazing games on slate. Let's start in the SEC. Tennessee travels to South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. Gamecocks gave up 395 rushing yards to Auburn last week, 8.4 yards per carry. They pushed Auburn to the limit, but dropped that ball game 42-35. When you look at Tennessee, they fell behind in a rivalry game to Alabama 27-0, but credit Butch Jones and that staff for keeping the team focused. That was a solid effort to cut that lead to 27-17 in the third quarter. You look at their sophomore quarterback, Joshua Dobbs, a dominant performance on the ground, 75 yards. He added another 192 through the air, really keyed that comeback for Tennessee. In the end, though, the Volunteers dropped a 14-point game to the Alabama Crimson Tide, 34-20. They now go on the road where they're 0-4 in the SEC, but you have to remember they beat South Carolina at home last year with Jadeveon Clowney, with that solid defense. They go on the road now, in my opinion, a very worn-out team in South Carolina. This is a dominant effort by Tennessee on the road. I think they get the road upset, pick up their first SEC victory on the year, calling for the upset in Columbia. I know it's a blackout. Worley will not play. It's all on Joshua Dobbs, but he brings an added dimension to that offense that they haven't had in a while. You look at what Auburn did last week to South Carolina, look for the same type of game plan, and I think Tennessee picks up the road upset over the Gamecocks on Saturday. Missouri still has an outside chance to win the SEC East should Georgia drop a game down the stretch. You look at this Kentucky team, dominant effort at home and almost striking off the upset against the number one ranked Miss State Bulldogs. They put up 504 total yards of offense. Patrick Tolles, their quarterback, 390 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, another 2 on the ground, but in the end, they couldn't get it done. Emotionally, physically drained. They were worn out on both sides of the ball by the offense and defensive lines of Miss State. They now go on the road to Columbia. You look at Missouri, they have not played well at home this year. Dropped the game to Georgia, dropped the game to Indiana, both at home. But I think Gary Pinkel and the staff have this team focused and ready, and look for quarterback Matty Mock to bounce back after 3 subpar performances, and I'm calling for the dominant victory by Missouri this coming weekend over Kentucky. Let's stay in the SEC. Ole Miss, Auburn. Auburn hitting on all cylinders in the rushing attack. 395 yards last week, 8.4 yards per carry. But credit the defense, too. 3 turnovers in that ball game and held South Carolina to 6 of 14 on third down conversions. You look at the flip side. Ole Miss beat up by LSU. They gave up 264 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per carry to the LSU Tigers. They were worn down physically, emotionally, a very tough ball game in Baton Rouge. They now come back home where one of their defensive leaders, Kandichi, the linebacker, will be out for the rest of the year. He's an emotional leader, but more importantly, he's a leader in run support. They're not going to have him this weekend. They're going to be facing a high up-tempo attack in Gus Malzahn, the Auburn Tigers. Look for Malzahn to utilize quarterback Nick Marshall sideline to sideline to wear down the Ole Miss defense. The speed of Auburn is the difference, and I think Auburn strikes the upset on the road Saturday night in Oxford. Ole Miss drops 2 straight and falls out of the playoff this coming weekend to Auburn and Nick Marshall. I think they get the solid road victory this coming weekend. Let's stay in the Pac-12. Interesting matchup, Arizona State, Utah. Arizona State's dominated this series. They've won 10 straight by an average margin of victory of 26 points per game. The last 3 games have been decided by 17 points per game, but Arizona State's won all 3. This is a very solid, high up-tempo offense led by Taylor Kelly, who came back last week a little bit rusty on the road in Washington, got his rhythm late in the fourth quarter, and the defense shut the door on Washington and picked up a solid road victory over the Huskies. On the flip side, Utah, solid home victory over USC. They pulled it out down the stretch. Travis Wilson dominant effort in leading his team back with a minute left in that ball game. The key, in my opinion, is the Arizona State defense giving up 180 rushing yards per game. They're going up against a very blue-collar offense and defensive lines in Utah. Very underrated running back in Booker. I think that's the difference. You look at this Utah defensive line, tops in the nation in creating sacks, 35 sacks through 7 games. Defensive lineman Nate Orchard, he's a dominating presence. 11 sacks, leads that team. And I think Utah picks up the road upset over Arizona State this weekend. In my opinion, this could be the sleeper of the Pac-12. I think the winner of this ball game wins the Pac-12, wins the Pac-12 championship. Not sold on Oregon overall. I think the winner of this ball game comes out and is the Pac-12 champion after this game. I think they have the inside track. One more game, Big Ten Conference. Very interesting matchup when you look at Michigan and Indiana. Michigan not playing well at all in any way, shape, or form. Coming back in a rivalry game. They had an opportunity to cut that game close, could not do it. Indiana, though, very high up-tempo attack, but has quarterback issues. Nate Sudfeld, quarterback, out for the year. They had very shaky quarterback play at home against Michigan State. I think that's the difference when you look at this matchup. I think Michigan gets the victory at home. Finally, they knock off Indiana. I know Brady Hoke's on the hot seat. He's gone as head coach. They're coming off a rivalry game. People are expecting Michigan to not perform this weekend. I think they dominate Indiana. They pick up a solid, decisive home victory over the Hoosiers. Stay with me all season long on the Weekly Blitz.